Delta's long-term fleet strategy is taking a hit, as the airline puts a pause on new Airbus aircraft deliveries coming from Europe and Canada. The reason? Tariffs introduced by President Trump that could increase aircraft prices by as much as 10 to 20%. This pause affects 20 Airbus A350-1000s that were scheduled for delivery from Toulouse, France, starting in 2026. The update came during Delta's first quarter earnings call, where the airline outlined plans to rein in costs and trim capital spending. February saw a slowdown in growth, and Delta is pointing to Trump's economic policies as one of the culprits. Delta's fleet is a mix of Boeing and Airbus jets, with the A350 currently serving as the airline's flagship for long-haul international routes. At the moment, Delta operates 35 Airbus A350-900s and still has 15 more of those on the way. The 20 larger A350-1000s are now on hold, though Delta also holds options for 20 additional airframes. CEO Ed Bastian made the company's stance crystal clear during the earnings webcast, saying, "We are working very closely with Airbus, which is the only aircraft manufacturer we've got deliveries coming from for the balance of this year. They've been a great partner, they are a great partner, and we'll do our very best to minimize tariffs. But we are very clear that we won't be paying tariffs on any aircraft deliveries we take." Because of the uncertainty in the economic climate, Delta is planning to scale back its network expansion and adjust capacity as 2025 moves forward. A drop in discretionary travel spending is one of the reasons the airline says it may not need the A350-1000s as urgently as before. But the impact of tariffs goes beyond just widebody aircraft. Delta's order for 69 Airbus A220-300s, meant for domestic and short-haul international flying, is also affected. Even though Airbus assembles some of these jets in Mobile, Alabama, key components still come from Europe and Canada, making them potential targets under the tariff regime. Meanwhile, Delta is fast-tracking the retirement of older aircraft, like the Boeing 757s and 767s, along with some Airbus A319s and A320s. These jets could head to storage ahead of schedule as Delta rethinks its overall fleet plan to manage the cost pressures and economic volatility caused by the trade environment. On top of all that, tensions between the US and Canada are starting to affect travel demand. Delta says it saw a noticeable drop in bookings from Canada during the first quarter. Delta President Glenn Hallenstein told investors, "In Canada, we have seen a significant drop-off in bookings. In Mexico, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some markets are performing better, some are performing worse." He added that Delta is navigating through those waters and considering capacity reductions for both Canada and Mexico in the months ahead. Despite remaining profitable, Delta has suspended its full-year financial forecast, citing the unpredictability tied to Trump's global tariff campaign. Travel between the US and Canada, both by air and on the ground, has slowed dramatically since early 2025, after Trump publicly threatened to annex Canada through economic means and turn it into the 51st state. The rhetoric and resulting tariffs have triggered layoffs and closures across Canada, and many Canadians are now cancelling work trips and vacations or avoiding US-based airlines altogether. Ed Bastian acknowledged the toll these tensions are taking. He told analysts that businesses, including Delta, are doing what they can to make sure they protect their future, during what he called a period of maximum or potentially maximum uncertainty. He added, "Delta is doing that, as we said, whether it's reducing capacity or finding other ways to save cash and protect our margins." As for what's driving these tariffs, President Trump has introduced sweeping trade penalties, including a 125% tariff on Chinese imports. China responded with an 84% duty on American goods. These moves have created serious market instability, but Trump argues that they're necessary to protect US manufacturing and jobs. The base tariff now sits at 10% for most countries, with temporary 90-day exemptions granted to a few. While Canada and Mexico were initially granted exemptions from the broader tariffs, aviation, and other key sectors have still been hit by targeted restrictions. Trump's administration insists this trade policy will reduce the U.S. trade deficit and encourage Americans to buy more locally made goods, increase tax revenue, and attract more domestic investment. Back in February, a 25% tariff was introduced on exports from Canada and Mexico, followed by a 10% penalty on Chinese goods. The latest update came on April 9th, when the US applied a 125% tariff specifically targeting China, while temporarily pausing penalties for other countries. Tariffs, essentially import taxes, are charged as a percentage of a product's value. So, under a 125% tariff, a $10 item from China would now cost $22.50 after the added tax. Importers pay these tariffs when goods arrive at US ports and customs, and in many cases, those added costs get passed on to consumers. Back on the airline front, Delta currently flies to multiple Canadian cities, including Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Quebec City, and Halifax, with flights connecting through major US hubs like Atlanta, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Seattle. The airline hasn't yet shared which routes might face cuts, and a spokesperson didn't immediately respond when asked for more details. Let's see how this continues to unfold, especially with major aircraft orders and international route planning hanging in the balance.